organizational change. Can you kick us off by introducing us to your company and walking us through your approach there?
Yeah, I'd love to. And we'll get into the idea of clarity. And clarity is not what most people think it is. So most people think about clarity as this aha moment, this lightning strike. I had a moment of clarity this morning. And the reality is that clarity is a process. And so it's a process designed to help leaders navigate the constant change, chaos, and transitions that we work through every single day. So let me walk you through, give you a high level about what we do and how we think about clarity, who we do it for. And then, Kristy, I know we'll get into a bunch of questions and address kind of really what's happening in the world today and how leaders can leverage clarity to really navigate that change. So our company is made up of two parts. And Peter, I don't know if you have if you're moving the slides.
Yeah, there you go.
So we have two parts of Deutser. We have our consultants and creators, the more traditional consulting with a really unique creative bent to it. Everything we do on this side of our business is about getting to really interesting, original solutions to complex problems. And on the Clarity Institute is an institute that we opened about a year ago. Hard to believe, right, Peter? It's hard to believe it's a year. It's a think tank. It's an idea accelerator. It's a learning lab. You see, if you're looking on the screen, you see just a small portion of the institute, but it is really a very special place designed to get leaders to think creatively, to let go of fear, any current ideas they have, and to dream about the future. So it's a pretty cool space that we're doing some really neat research on. We're about to release some interesting research on the Positivity Quotient, which connects a company's positivity to their ability to achieve their desired future state. Really interesting things on engagement. So fun things in the Institute, and together the Institute and Deutser form a pretty interesting combination. We've been fortunate that our ideas and our work have been recognized by a number of different publications. And if we go to the next slide, a number of different clients in different industries. I think the beauty of what we do, and I think the reality of where we are as a society and as a business community, is that there is no set solution that works, that you can take from this company to that company to the next and say, this works. The best practices of the years before don't necessarily translate to today. And so as we think about the organizations and the sectors that we work in, we have the privilege to work with some of the top brands, the top organizations in the world. And we feel really, really blessed to be able to get to work with leaders who are searching for not just what's next, but what's next after next. They really are open to thinking about their future different than they thought about their past. And so this is just a little sampling of some of the folks that we get to work with.
Fantastic, Brad. And I think there's probably a question that's going to be pretty hot on everyone's minds right now, which is, this is something you guys do, right? And you do it so well, and you've done it for so long, but we're really facing this very different scenario right now where there are a lot of questions about what is going back to work even actually going to look like. Have you actually embedded a post-COVID specific process into what you do at the Institute?
Yeah, we on all sides of our business. I think that there's some fundamental things that all businesses have to do. If today I've talked to 5 different clients all over the world, and they're all saying, what does the future look like? The reality is none of us know what the future looks like or when it's going to get here. So we can plan based on different scenarios of what we believe the future will be. But the advice that we're giving clients right now is really getting tethered back to the foundations of their business. And if we get the core, the culture, the people part of our business is right and use this time to focus on it, our people are willing to give us the freedom and the latitude to adjust our strategy. And so in a couple slides, I'm going to walk through and I'm going to show you, here's the construct of how we think about clarity and how we think about organizations in good times and challenging times. And the reality is that leaders are navigating change every single day. Whether we're in COVID-19 or not, the world is changing. This is just changing it at a much different rate, a much different trajectory, with many more open questions on the backside. But there's fundamentals that we can do, and we're going to get into those in just a minute, that I think help leaders to really ground their thinking, their work, and to help their people really find a place to belong in this new future.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Sorry, Peter. Go ahead.
No. I was just going to tack on to that's from kind of a broad organizational perspective, but from an individual perspective, as these employees are coming back, they're going to be a little, out of sorts and a little timid. And it's going to be more important than ever for leaders to really keep an eye open and be really aware of a concept we work with and coach around called psychological safety. And as the employees are coming back in, that comprises of a couple major pieces. It's trust. Trust is going to be probably an all-time low for many reasons, and leaders are going to really have to work at that. Second piece we call employee voice. Employees are really going to have to, or rather leaders are going to have to make sure they're listening to their employees really carefully, both up and down the organization. And then a third piece of it is empowerment, to really make sure employees are trusted, feel trusted, and empowered to do their work. So, from that angle as well, it's something we're going to be looking at very closely with our clients.
Amazing. I love it. And Peter, before you go to the next slide, I just want to kind of take a quick second to introduce also another member of your team who just was able to join us. He had a little prior commitment run over a bit, but Rob Kaczmarek, managing partner. So Rob, hello as well. Welcome.
Thank you. Yes, we had a little bit of technical difficulty, but Safari saved me. So
yay!
All right.
It's kind of interesting that of the three of us, Rob's the technologist of the group, so he's the one who got locked out. But hey, that's the way it works. So that leads us kind of, I think, interestingly to our next slide, which our whole focus as a company. Peter has is our organizational psychologist. We have a unique team, which we'll get into. Rob with his focus on people through technology. But everything we do is about taking a human approach to organizational change. And to so many organizations, the idea of change is not something that's comfortable. But the reality is that is a requirement in today's business environment. And so getting people comfortable with it is really fundamental to the work that we do. And our approach, and what makes it so unique, is the way that we take the human element, the way that we humanize our work and create connections, real human, genuine connections across the organization. As we get to the next slide, the way that we do this is through our people. And as unique as the people are that we work with, we've put together a pretty special team of business consultants, management consultants, organizational psychologists, PhDs, social scientists, artists, coaches, authors, thinkers, a really unique blend of people, including some media experts and creative team. And together we take a very holistic 360-degree view of the organization. So we don't go in a flat, one-dimensional way. We're really looking at all times to evaluate the company, and the different disciplines that we have do not see the world the same way. And our clients embrace that, and they appreciate the fact that we bring a highly creative approach with business and science all blended together. Let's go for it, Peter.
Yep.
When we talk about clarity, and so go back to the foundation of clarity, and clarity is a process. Clarity is our process that helps leaders navigate change, transition, and constant chaos. Sounds like the world we live in now.
Yeah.
And so the whole premise behind this is to give leaders the tools they need to lead, and to give the employees a place in which to belong and know where they can interact and succeed in an organization. And so we talked about,
Brad, can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
Actually, this might be a good question for Rob as well on your team. It sounds so great to hear that. So great, right? And anything that we can do as leaders and CEOs or even team members to navigate that, I think is so wonderful, to navigate change and to do so effectively and in a way that's comfortable. But my question would be, there's so much, I think, not negativity, but nervousness right now, given the situation that we're coming out of, hopefully coming out of getting out of this home office and back to work. How can you provide the feelings that go along with that, feelings of security and feelings of stability? How can you just help bring that positivity back while we're also trying to navigate change? Because change was originally always hard. And I feel like, there's a lot of emotional kind of craziness that's happening too. Not everybody returning to a workforce, and we're going to have to deal with that as well. So how do you recommend navigating that, like change in the light of that, negative or positive kind of atmosphere?
There are so many things leaders can do to drive that positivity. And positivity is one of the three elements of the process of clarity. And so we talk about think inside a new framework. We talk about humanizing connections, which you just really addressed. How do we bring people back and create those real connections? And how do we leverage positivity, which is the glue that binds our company together? But positivity is way more powerful than just, a mindset. It is a way of leading. It is a way of living. It is a way of connecting us where we are and where we want to be. No matter how challenged we are in today's environment, having that positivity, and there's tips we can give, and there's lots of things we write about positivity, is the great connector. It's the great connector of that. And so, as Peter talked about, trust, which goes to humanizing connections, psychological safety, some of the work that Rob does to blend, to connect people while they're not at work through technology and other elements. So there's so many different things that we can do. We just have to look at the environment differently and be willing to try. I think one of the great outcomes in a really bad situation that we're in now is people are going to embrace creativity, originality, and different thinking in fundamentally different ways.
Wow.
What worked before will not work in the future. Think about the workforce. Think about the workforce that was, it was hard to find talent. Now it's hard for the talent to find jobs. And then there's going to be a lot that has to do with culture, making sure that the talent that gets the job and the company that's hiring is able to make sure it's the right talent, the right fit for the job. So I think people are going to be really much more interested in culture, finding the right fit to know that they can be protected over the long haul. And I don't know, Peter, Rob, if you have a different thought or something you want to add to that.
Yeah, no, that directly kind of impacts what I was going to say. But this whole crisis that we're going through now reminds me of the crisis that we went through on 9/11. And at that point, I inadvertently, obviously I hadn't met Brad yet, but I inadvertently stumbled onto positivity and offering help. And that's really how I led my company at the time to kind of persevere through that. And it was years later that I, dumb luck, stumbled upon it, but I got lucky enough to run into Brad and meet Brad and started digging into the stuff that Peter and Brad were doing. And it blew my mind to see the positivity really is the glue that holds kind of everything together. And it's time and time again, you see it over and over again.
Yeah, no, and I'll just tack on real quick. It lends itself to the next couple of slides we're going to look at. That, as Brad talks about, clarity is a process and lays out these 3 steps. Again, on one angle, they are, big, just very positive types of things that we can do in terms of helping people be positive and creating humanizing connections. But at the same time, we also believe, and it's the way we go about doing our work, that this stuff is really it's grounded in research. We've done study around positivity and performance of organizations, and positivity correlating to particular areas within a business to know what you need to do to further leverage positivity. The humanizing connections, as we've been talking about and has laced through a lot of this conversation today, there are very grounded, real, tangible things that we do through communication and learning and a number of other areas that really drive such things as humanizing connections.
Peter, I love that you bring that up, and I know you have a slide in between the two, but would you be able to hop down to your Clarity Performance Index really quickly? Because I think that's what you're touching on when it comes to like these elements. And I think that would be really valuable for everyone listening in today, to kind of get a really deep sense for what are some of those things that you saw when you ran that study.
Sure.
Peter, I'm going to jump in before, because I want to make the connection to what this is, and tying it to
you want to bounce back
our approach. What was that?
Do you want to bounce back to the box real quick?
Yeah, go back and then we'll jump here. Yeah, just go back to the box. So our whole theory, and our theory of thinking inside a different framework is thinking inside the box. So many people, when you ask the question, are you an outside the box thinker? Are you an inside the box thinker?
Yeah.
Different people have different perspectives. But what we don't do is ask the question of, what size is your box? What does your box look like? And so what we've helped organizations do is to construct that box. And we've done research on this box that dates to my time, several 30 plus years ago at Ringling Brothers Barnum Bailey Circus. But looking at the box and understanding, and the research proves that it's actually inside the box thinking that drives performance, it drives creativity and innovation. And so when you look at the box, there's 4 sides to the box: direction. Do we all share where we're going? Operations, our ability to adapt to the changing environment. People, that goes to the individuals and the teams in our organization. Engagement, that's everything from the employee's fit, to the climate of the organization. Those 4 sides of the box give a really good indication, and we'll talk about that in the next slide. But the box is a cube with a top and a bottom. The top of the box is the environment, which today the environment's very different than it was 2 months ago. And so this is taking into consideration the consumer psyche, the changing environment around us, the competitive environment, all the different factors that are constantly swirling, and then the organizational identity. And I think, Kristy, we talked at this at the beginning. The organizational identity is one of the most important things that people can focus on now. It's the bottom of the box. It's hidden. Think about a present that you wrap and you put tape on the bottom, and it's where everything's messed up. But the reality is, like in an organization, that's where the strength of the organization comes from. A poor foundation, your box is going to wobble. And so when we talk about organizational identity, it's about our values. It's about our purpose. And some people like to think about purpose and say, it's all about purpose right now. We've got to get our purpose. And they're partially right. But identity is bigger than purpose alone. So it's purpose,
Brad,
values.
What do you think? I love that. And just curious your thoughts. What do you think is happening? Is there something happening, I guess, right now, kind of universally to the bottom of every box? Inherently, now that we're all in this scenario that we're in, where we're not together in our organizations, do you think that's affecting this organizational identity floor specifically?
Yes and no. So yes, it is affecting a ton of organizations. Why? Because the crisis has shaken them. The crisis has shaken them, and they're disconnected. They're untethered to their core ideology, their DNA, the culture that makes them them. But know in that there are so many organizations right now that are wanting to go back and reaffirm, rediscover their foundation. And those organizations that are committed to their organizational identity are the ones that we're seeing even increased connection by the workforce, even when the organization is having to make difficult decisions, because it's grounded in and connected to the bottom of that box. So we're seeing a lot of it right now. And it's the one thing, again, we can't control the environment. We can't predict what the government's going to do, what our industries are going to do. We can create scenarios to think about them, plan for them. But the most important thing right now is find a way to tether back to your organizational identity. That's your characteristics, your values, your purpose, your traditions, getting to the DNA that most organizations just assume or say, we got it, we have 4 values, here's what they are. That's not what we're talking about. It's about going deeper. When you do that, you protect your organization in times of crisis, and you give yourself a place to jump off of and jump to the future from when the time is right to jump. But everything is about that connection to that foundation.
Great.
Peter, why don't you go talk us through the next slide?
Sure. Let's jump over to what we call, again, this box as a flat model. It makes up the 4 sides that Brad just discussed. And it's a model that we call the Clarity Performance Index because it really is a performance index. It's looking at, as Brad already walked through, 4 major areas of the business. It's direction. Do you know where you're going? Operations, people, engagement. But we take it a little bit further as a survey and a tool. And within direction, we look at specifically vision. Is there a clear vision? Do we know where we're going? Strategy, same thing. Do we have a roadmap? Leadership. Leadership is part of direction because they're the ones who are taking us forward. On operations, we have adaptability. Can we navigate change? Do we understand our performance, where we are? Systems. People's made up of teamwork, talent, and development. And then engagement is made up of fit, which means literally how well of a fit do I think I am for the organization? Customer. Are we engaged with our customers? And then climate, I'll bring that all the way back around to that concept of psychological safety. It's understanding the organizational climate and how much trust, good communication, and things like empowerment are going on inside the organization. So that's our model. If you do look at it diagonally and you put engagement and people together, that does make up our culture system. And if you put direction and operations together, that makes up our strategic system. And so as a whole, it's the way we take the temperature of an organization, how people are feeling, how they think they're doing inside of an organization, within performance and how the organization is performing. Excuse me. What I want to come back to real quickly also is the positivity, just to talk a little bit about the research and give you an idea of what we have found.
Great.
We looked at all the positivity scores that we have collected that we tag on to this research. We found that from a correlation coefficient that positivity is most highly correlated to teamwork and the teamwork scores.
Okay.
Secondarily, adaptability, and third, leadership. And so what we know through thousands and thousands of data points and research is that we can help companies in general point to what we would call kind of levers, things that they can work on that we know will help them improve the positivity inside the organization.
And one of the things about this is so what's interesting about this model is the Clarity Performance Index can be used multiple ways. So one, it is an assessment, 60-question assessment that is one of the most accurate diagnostic and prescriptive tools for organizational health and engagement. But other times leaders come to the Institute and simply we have a 6 foot by 6 foot version of this on the wall. They map where they are through a maturity map and another tool. So really powerful for the organization to be part of this, but it's also a place for leaders to have discussion and create commonality about where we are. And one of the things as we think about positivity, and this is one that shows a company that is pretty high performing. It's a decent performance against some of our benchmarks. We're not looking for deficits here. We don't look for what's wrong in an organization. We're looking for the strengths. We're looking for the places that we can build from. Sometimes it is from the deficits, but most times we find, in this case, if I'm looking at this, if it were our company, I would say we really need to continue to build on the strength of leadership, climate, and the systems doesn't perform as well. We know that if we improve systems, it's not going to help us that much. That's our company. So there is a uniqueness that we learn about each individual organization, and it gives a very interesting prescription, both strategically and culturally, to how to guide the organization forward. We're seeing more and more organizations in times of chaos say, let's pause, let's think about where we are, where do our people think we are, and then let's begin our planning connected back to that base.
That's great. And I think what's really interesting about this, I'm a big fan of like Enneagrams and Myers-Briggs and trying to figure out who we are as individuals. And this is almost doing a very similar thing in doing that exercise, but to figure out who you are as an organization and get that clarity around who you are.
Right. That's absolutely correct.
You've mentioned a couple times, and this I think is really interesting and maybe worth kind of diving into just a little bit real quickly is, that keeping engagement and how important it is. So it's clear that in your process and I think in life in general, if you're going to be in business, if you're going to have an organization and manage teams and manage people, that having that feeling of connection and putting kind of that culture and that human element first is so important. But one thing you mentioned was keeping employees engaged. And I think we're in a really awkward space right now because we're at home and need to be engaged. And then when we do go back to work as usual, we need to continue to be engaged. And from this moment today on, without really losing any time or losing any momentum in that process, do you have any recommendations for folks on the call who want, maybe some tangible ways to help their employees stay engaged at this time of complete separation, and then carry that through to when we do eventually get back together?
So I'll start with this. There's a number of things that we do. First, we've created some guides. We have a guide to working at home, a guide to studying at home, a guide to parenting at home, and positivity in crisis that are available on our website on braddeitzer.com/resources. That free downloads. They have gone to thousands of people who we've gotten more comments about. Thanks for the ideas. Thanks for the ways to do that. One of the things we're working with leaders is to try to create some bit of normalcy. So if you have Wednesday meetings all together, host your Wednesday meetings. We as a company are trying to find other ways to bring people together in large groups and subgroups. And so the large groups, we do a lot of work around mindfulness, meditation. We have a mandatory meditation for our office with a partner in New York who does it every Tuesday morning. We find ways to create more connections. So there are things that we do. We're trying to insert fun. We are trying to challenge people. We are trying to encourage people to check on each other, people that they normally talk to and people that they wouldn't, and forge new and different relationships that we think are going to be an important bridge for the future. So that's one thing. The other thing is engaging your workforce around getting back to the foundation. This is the time where we give the workforce a chance to respond to assessments, to have thinking time to say, what are the answers to this? So engage them around who you are and what you do well before and during this. And part of this is if we are able to reestablish the foundation, retether them to the foundation, then when work comes back, it's going to be different. The reality is most organizations aren't going to have all the same people doing all the same things. And so there's going to be an adjustment. It's almost like a new environment, a new world. And so one of the things that we are starting to do is to develop new onboarding for employees that have been there for 20 years, 10 years, because the past isn't a predictor of the future. So we are recreating it, tying it back to the foundation, re-engaging about where we are,
Right.
the grieving about what we've lost during this time, and the loss of coworkers, not the physical loss, but they may not be in the space anymore, or people may be working remotely. There's a lot of things that we're going to grieve going forward, but embracing who we are, where we are, and then setting a vision. If a leader will actively work to set the vision, to lead, and to facilitate the teamwork necessary, our research, and it's of, I think, 14,000 people that we studied on this, shows that engagement and the internal net promoter score will dramatically increase. So the fundamentals, the basics, when we get back to work, are going to be the things that we're going to really push hard on working with leaders to embrace.
That's wonderful. And I love that part too about an internal net promoter score, right? Like gauging how we're feeling internally. So often we use tools like that to gauge how our clients and customers feel, which is wonderful and necessary, but doing it with ourselves and looking inward also sounds pretty important.
We think Peter leads this effort, and he and his team have studied the internal perspective, the external perspective, and the correlation of how the performance of one often is connected with the performance of the other.
Wonderful. Hey guys, we have about 2 minutes left in our session today. So Peter, before I kind of ask for final thoughts, wanted to make sure, if there was anything else that you wanted us to know, everyone on this call to know before we take off and go to the next session.
Sure. Just in thinking about everything we've talked about and your last question, that Brad really did lay out a lot of the great things, that we do. I would just add, and I'm going to use a word that I know he's very big on himself, and that is, as we get back, as we're re-engaging, everything has to be very, very purposeful. I think, we believe in purposeful, being very purposeful in everything we do anyway, but it'd be something I would offer to those out there as employees are coming back. It is going to be a different time for all different reasons, for any number of people and what they've gone through, what they're still going through. And so, when we talk engaging them and trying to rebuild connections and do all of that, I think leaders, managers, whomever, really have to do it in a very purposeful way. And whether that's how we interact with each other, whether it's how we devise maybe the onboarding and the way we build, like Brad talked about, the onboarding program to just completely almost reset and bring people on again and get them brought in back into the organization, at least physically, because we've all been connected like this through video. So anyway, that's just my thought. That was the word that was really popping up in my head. And think, that's what we really have to be conscious of.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as we wrap up our time here, I would love it if each of you could give me in just 2-3 words or less, if you had one just piece of advice that you would kind of mantra that you would wish to leave with the folks who joined us today, what would that be? So don't know. I didn't tell you I was going to ask you this at all, so I'm kind of putting you on the spot. But I think I'll start with Rob.
It's Brad and Peter both kind of pointed this out, but the foundations, right? We as humans all want to deliver a purpose, right? And our environment can often change and be different. Today is different than tomorrow. But our drive and our purpose is what keeps us grounded and centered. And I think for an organization, it's the same thing. So focusing while everybody's looking at the environment and we're all paying attention to it, knowing who you are and as an organization and where you're going, if it's, to create positive impacts in the world, that can stay the same in a shifting environment. And that's really what you fall back on in times of great turbulence.
That's wonderful, that human element, sense of purpose. Peter, Brad, any final thoughts, guys?
I'll give you, or you, Peter, you go, and I'll wrap it up.
Quick. I was going to end where I started. 3 elements of psychological safety. Be thinking of trust, employee voice, and empowerment.
Perfect. Great.
And I think that I'll end this with, I think these times demand 100% of the truth. We can't give our employees, our workforce, 60, 70% of the truth. Let's be honest. Let's be open. Let's tell people what's going to happen, when it's going to happen. And let's all embrace the mantle of leadership. There is leadership inside every person, no matter what your title, no matter what your role. Be the leader of you and lead with the truth.
So inspirational. Well, thank you all. Thank you all 3 for joining us. I did pop a link to braddeitzer.com/resources into the chat window for the folks who joined us today. Thank you all for being here. And we will see you at the rest of the conference.